Hello and welcome everyone. Today I'm joined by Goitom Tegegn. Goitom is the Director of Public Relations and Communications at Tigray Disaster Relief Fund, and he has joined me today to talk about what they have been doing. Welcome, Goitom.
Thank you, Tegegn. Thank you for having me.
So I suppose we could start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and about Tigray Disaster Relief Fund for the benefit of our listeners.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Tegegn. We're very much grateful for Tegegn for providing us this platform to convey our message. I would love to begin by conveying my heartfelt condolences on behalf of myself and TDRF to the people of Tigray and to all of us Tigrayans around the world who have faced a genocide and actually all its consequences to a very devastating stage. So I hope everybody's coping up and we will get healing much more faster than we should, and then get back to rebuilding and reconstructing. So that's the first message I would like to convey. And to briefly introduce myself, I just recently moved to Europe. I'm based in Belgium now, but for quite a long time, starting my first bachelor's degree graduation, I have served at Marley University as a lecturer and of course in the positions of communication director and international office director. So it has been a career of more than a decade that has built a lot of partnerships around the world, connections with many Tigray-based communities around the world as well. And in my stay here in Belgium, in the last 2 years, I've been trying my best to kind of contribute to all the effort in advocacy with regard to what's happening in Tigray, and basically spreading the word and kind of backing some initiatives that would support communities in Tigray. So then my affiliation to TDRF. Currently, I work at the University of Applied Sciences in Belgium at the international office, and I also teach at the business unit. That's in a nutshell about me. Continuing to the next question you raised about TDRF, and it's good that I start with the motto of TDRF. TDRF's motto goes, saving lives, inspiring generations. Partly really going with the very reason that it was established. The beginning goes to back in 2018, when a group of professional Tigrayan diaspora actually decided to found this non-profit organization to kind of respond to the situation that was aggravating in Ethiopia, where the Tigrayans were being uprooted from many parts of Ethiopia through ethnic violence, and that caused a lot of internal displacement within the country. Then there was a demand to kind of act, and this very few professionals gathered and established Tigray Disaster Relief Fund. So that was the very reason, and it was about reaching out to the families who are facing this unexpected devastation from all parts of Ethiopia. And for that, there was some kind of mobilization with very key stakeholders that are in Tigray. Basically, the Bureau of Labor and Social Affairs was up front, and some non-profit organizations in Tigray as well, where they collaborated with TDRF for the very small amounts of money that were raised and sent to support those people. So that was the very humble beginning of TDRF, which then continued to mainly focus on two key aspects of providing assistance and, of course, initiatives. The two on the mission are humanitarian relief, engaging in humanitarian relief in Tigray, that's one. And the second one is on development assistance, which actually we want to emphasize on in the future. So unfortunately, right after the 2018 crisis with all over Ethiopia on Tigrayans, then followed the locust swarm situation, then followed COVID, then followed the Tigray war. So it has been always focusing on disaster and relief and humanitarian activities, but we hope we will sometime pull out of this and really focus on development intervention, which actually will be more focusing on supporting innovative youngsters, creating these entrepreneurial-minded youngsters who can provide solutions to the health, education, and economic relief in Tigray. So that's the whole philosophy on inspiring generations behind TDRF. That's the key message we want to convey. Yeah, perhaps if I would also add one more information so that we make it an interaction. So far, the work of TDRF focused on disaster relief, food security, and then economic well-being of Tigrayans around, perhaps mainly in Tigray, but then it also extended to the refugees in Sudan to some extent. So that was also partly when Tigray was under siege. That was one of the focus areas again. Education is at the center, as we are also going to discuss in a while about the current campaign that we are doing. We have a certain perspective towards why we should actually focus on education, and we'll do that. And one of the key campaigns in the last couple of years has been the support for either referral hospitals. So that's also one major intervention area, which is the health sector. So these are the key activities done so far with regard to the past 5 years. And just in October, we marked our 5 years anniversary. And then, it was not a convenient time for celebrating for what has been achieved because of the situation back home with all the, all this news about veterans who lost their lives in the war. Then now we just came up with our new campaign, and along that we are spreading the word about what is TDRF, what are we doing, how can we actually work with our communities around the world. That's basically in a nutshell.
Well, that's a brilliant summary, Goitom. I'm going to ask you to speak up a little bit. I feel as though you're whispering into my ears. Maybe it's my headphones, but just in case.
Okay.
And well, I think I should start by joining you in passing my message of condolences to them, Tigray people. Like you said, it's been an unprecedented difficulty and suffering and pain that has been inflicted on the Tigray people. And I think that the best way to respond to that is what you are doing. You're trying to inspire people. You're trying to get people back on their feet, and that is the best that you could do. And I'm already inspired by what you just said in terms of what you are trying to do. One thing that struck me from what you just said, Goitom, is that it was started in 2018. I had actually thought that it was started following the war in 2020. So I have to ask you, in what way had the war sort of changed your mission or your operations? We're going to go into details into the thing that you have achieved, but broadly speaking, I think from 2020 onwards, things that you wouldn't have foreseen had happened, and you would have had to respond to them. In what way had that affected you?
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to rely on what memories would serve at this point, because most of my engagements also with TDRF happened after the war started. But then I have been a great supporter and follower from back home as well before the war. So once again, I want to convey that the focus was more on supporting youngsters and creating innovative solutions towards the problems in Tigray. So it was about motivating solutions that would advance agriculture, for instance, in Tigray. So there were some kinds of specific projects. Maybe the way we do things at TDRF will make it clear when I state the impact statement, but the war has obviously made us focus on basically whatever crisis is coming next. You don't really have that strict plan of we have to do this, but it's also an agile team that works at TDRF. So it was about really restructuring things and doing another assessment on where should we focus, which area should we actually prioritize, and then the actual crisis on the ground in Tigray also sometimes dictates what you do next. So when either referral hospital was in a lot of crisis, and we had to hear all this sad news about they were reusing gloves and partly collecting dresses and garments from the public to use as some mid-aid. It was it was completely a different game instead of the things that you have planned ahead to create impact on. But then you have to prioritize, and it is about engaging in what the community needs immediately. And it was always working specifically on these topics, plus collaborating with other partners on these topics. Good that you mentioned, perhaps most people would assume TDRF was established after the war, but that it was established 2 years before that gives it a comparative advantage to most of these organizations, Tigrayan affiliated organizations. And I would perhaps be stand to be corrected as my knowledge grows about Tigrayan affiliated organizations, but TDRF would be up front and on the top when it comes to working with the most partners on the ground in Tigray, as well as abroad in the Tigrayan diaspora community. The reason for that is the approach towards implementing projects does not really involve TDRF mostly writing projects and implementing them. We don't currently have an office in Tigray, for instance, which means implementation would be through collaborators. And when I explained the PAS collaboration for the previous Healing with Hope project, it will also be more clear to our audience. But then TDRF so far has worked with 37 partners that actually work in and around Tigray, putting resources. So we would receive proposals that would ask for funding on a specific area of engagement that would concern health, education, supporting women and the youth. And we would actually pull resources from some of the key means of funding for fundraising activities that we do, grants that we apply, and sometimes affiliated organizations that would put money into TDRF for implementation, and that money would be allocated to these projects. So the approach is a little bit one level higher. We receive applications from various project organizations that would implement activities in Tigray. So that has made it quite stronger. And to put it in numbers, in the last 5 years, TDRF has raised a little bit shorter than $1 million US dollars. So 964,000 US dollars has been raised, and the implementation has took grant amounts awarded close to 800,000 of it. 37 partners organized in this, and then of course the target group community in Tigray reaches 44,000 plus. So we are talking about this size of engagement being monitored and really played in a very professional way by the TDRF board of directors and everyone involved there. So for me, it was quite inspiring. And one of my entry points towards engaging with TDRF was when we decided we need to do something about the crisis with our war veterans. And then we had to decide who can actually pull the resources for actually keeping our partners coming together to play the game. So yeah, I think these facts put it up front how TDRF is actually structured, how it's working, and how it can be a very good, reliable partner to many Tigray affiliated community members and as well as organizations.
Well, I will ask you later to give us the specific thing that you're trying to help the war veterans with. But for now, maybe I know that you have briefly touched on the thing that you have achieved the past 5 years from 2018. But maybe for our viewers to really understand what it is that you have been doing, I'm going to ask you to give us sort of a brief summary of the main thing that you have achieved the past 5 years, or maybe the highlights, or the thing that you point to and say, these are some of the things that we are proud of.
Yeah, perhaps to take it to practical things that were done with regard to supporting communities. One of the intervention areas is to immediately provide humanitarian relief during, for instance, the internal displacements from various regions in Ethiopia. That time it was about providing food support to those who were displaced, and food security becomes the key question. And then that was where the money that was raised was being actually used for. So various community members in different displaced community shelters would get some food assistance in this regard. A couple of projects went to support community members in an economic way, in either financially or really providing them with things to empower their agricultural practices, make it sustainable, and really receive seed money to kind of do a couple of activities. This goes for mainly women beneficiaries in Tigray. With regard to education, it has been a good culture at TDRF that we focus on supporting children with teaching materials, and of course schools also with some relevant facilities that they can use. For the health, it was actually significantly monetary support to Ida Referral Hospital. That's also one good thing to say, that it does not give you much room to kind of engage in different ways when you don't have an implementing office in Mekelle, which is actually part of the next plan for TDRF, opening up an office in Mekelle and becoming an implementing organization as well. For now, we have volunteers such as the volunteers at the board of directors here. We have volunteers on the ground in Tigray who are doing magnificent job in implementing the tasks and activities together with all these partners that are working with TDRF. So yeah, one good thing to mention as well is the support provided to the refugees, Tigrayan refugees in Sudan as well, with regard to supporting the monetary support. So yeah, these are some of the very few actual tasks that we have engaged before.
So you provide humanitarian support, which is really indispensable in the current circumstances in Tigray. You are providing financial support to people in dire economic situations, and you briefly mentioned war veterans. I'm going to ask you later, but I think maybe you are trying to supply prosthetics and stuff like that, which would be useful for them. And I presume that you are having to rely on raising funding for all this.
Indeed.
Yep. Well, I think that the natural question is where do you like, how do you raise funding? What are the challenges that you are facing in that department, and where how do you prioritize your activities in Tigray? It's a lot of questions, but maybe we could start with the issue of funding, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to kind of point out what are the activities that we do to kind of generate money, so that we implement a couple of projects and fund some projects of other partners as well. The very first thing is we do certain campaigns, fundraising campaigns that to some extent are emergency fundraising campaigns so far, but of course there are also these regular Giving November campaigns or activities in and around Tigrayan causes, and then where you would call for some kind of donation from the community everywhere. The second type is we have very committed monthly members who contribute regularly to TDRF. These loyal members are the backbones of TDRF and everything that it does significantly. So it is also partly an initiative for TDRF now to maximize the number of monthly members who would contribute a certain amount of money on regular basis, so that we have continued support to our communities. We also, in the future, it's in our way forward plan that we have to focus on grants as well, because there are a lot of Tigray-based initiatives asking our community members to donate. There is also families that we have to support, and there are people who are very much connected individually and doing a lot of monetary contributions. So for organizations such as TDRF and at this level organizations, nonprofits abroad, it is the best approach to really hunt for international grants instead, because fundraisings cannot be that reliable. From my take, it has been a very intense, emotional 2 years during the siege, and of course all the war and everybody would respond to all the requests that you would put out. But of course, as communities around the world, for Tigray communities, they have been exhausted through this continuous, non-ending requests for support. Now we think the best way forward is to kind of build the capacity, which actually we do have currently, the project development section, and then by empowering that, by inviting more concerned Tigrayans who have the capability to write grants and join us in the journey, I think the best way to keep it more bigger is to have international grants more achieved. And then that's the next step. Social media advocacy, we try our level best to tell what we are doing. We put out videos, we put out reports. Our website is full of annual and quarterly magazines with stories about what has been done in Tigray, plus promoting Tigray as well, our land, which still needs a lot of promotion and effort to put it on the front page of the communities around the world. And yeah, we also try to serve as a knowledge hub. That's our initiative. I personally witnessed a great level of ethics and transparency at TDRF as a team member working with the board of directors. And I think when it comes to talking about building institutions as the future for Tigray, TDRF can be a good example. It is one of the accredited nonprofits in the US, and that comes for continuous years that it has engaged. And we want to sell this kind of brand to all initiatives in Tigray. We know there is a lot of challenge with regard to putting trust and actually putting money and hope on organizations to some extent. And we want to get some kind of best practice to be at the center of this exercise, and to show, this is our hope. And one best way to describe that is the way TDRF has actually did transitions of leadership through the years. So every 2 years, there's a change in leadership that has been going smoothly. But then you also see those who have been serving, who have actually left their positions, are still actively involved and engaged and working with the organization. So I see it is a place where you would develop belongingness, and of course feel that it is necessary to actually give space and room to the next person who will also put more effort to continue what has been done and build on that. So that is one great way that we would like to serve as a knowledge hub, and we hope all our publications, all the efforts that we are spreading the word will help in that regard. And part of that, we also have a section on our website for volunteers to join TDRF, one as volunteers, second as interns as well. We want the young in Tigray or Tigrayans around the world who are really interested to join the TDRF team to see how things are done and see perhaps they get inspired to do more. Also, it's about capacity building for all these other non-profit organizations working in and around Tigray. It is a broad ambition, but of course, it has to be achieved. That's the way forward. Partly one of the major failures so far in Tigray is the fact that we don't build sustainable institutions per se.
So if someone listening to this, Goitom, convinced of the righteousness of the cause that TDRF is trying to advance, wants us to join or to become a permanent member or a regular member, how do they do it?
Great. Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you, Tech, because we want to make it clear, perhaps significant part of any information that anyone wants to know about TDRF is put on our website. We try our level best to keep it up to date with the most recent information. So the quarterly report is there, the annual report is there, the strategic report is there, and the strategic plan is there. We don't want to actually invite everyone to read the documents, but we want to make it clear it's our window where everything is accessible. And if you would go towards the donate section of our website, there is clearly an option for one to register as a monthly member to donate a certain amount of money on monthly basis, or a one-time donation that one can choose to do so. And once that's done, we have all our systems in order that you will receive proofs of your payments, and you will receive emails thanking you for your actually donation and contribution. And it's also part of our culture that we keep our members, specifically the ones who are regularly contributing to TDRF, keep them updated about every activity that we do through our socials and through personal emails that we target.
All right. So to our listeners, if you would like to join, like Goitom is making a plea for you to join, those of you who have the means. I'm going to put a link to their website, and I'm going to put other resources that are relevant related to campaigns that they have run, and a lot of other material that you might find useful. So I'm going to put them all in the box, under the description box.
Yeah.
So, Goitom, earlier on, you mentioned that you have been running campaigns, advocacy, and a lot of other things. And one of the campaigns that you have run is Healing with Hope. It would be good, I think, if you tell us what it was about and how successful it was.
Great, thank you. Yes, as a next step, it would be really good to give the status update with regard to our Healing with Hope project. It was actually a response to the crisis that actually escalated at the beginning of this year, 2023, in the month of February, last year in our calendar. What happened was, we saw after the Pretoria Agreement was signed, things started to kind of slow down, but then a lot of grievance was rising with regard to those who have been victims of the war. 1 million lives lost, and those who kind of survived had a lot of wounds, injuries, trauma, and sadly, Tigray did not have the resources nor the kind of stable system to address those situations. And we discussed, as we would always do at the board of directors, and we said we really need to connect, because it was also becoming a very critical issue on the social media platforms, that we had these wounded youngsters who were not receiving immediate attention for lack of resources, and sometimes the question boils down to not having food as well, which is really tragic. So we said we need to do something about this. And the best approach we followed with regard to intervening at that level was, we said, if we have to do it, we need implementing partners on the ground. And there were very few with limited resources also still trying to support. So we said, we need to bring everyone together and have them agree to work together, do a needs assessment, and actually submit a report on the results of the needs assessment, and whatever is generated in a stretch of time, we're going to put it into supporting the priority topics from that need assessment. And then we managed to bring 12 organizations together, including the Tigray Bureau of Health and many more, which are very much known in Tigray. For instance, Mulu charity organization is very popular in activities in Tigray. New Horizon for Disability Development, Ma'adot, Rescue and Oasis Actions was by then being established. It was a new one. Araya Women and Children Charitable Organization. Haven Tigray, a US-based nonprofit. Again, Godly Foundation is one of the new ones. And yeah, all in all, recently the number rose to 14 in total, and TDRF collaborated with all this, and we said we need to sign an MOU together with regard to how we're going to raise the money and where we're going to put it. So we marked our target, and we did a 3-month stretch fundraising, and we did good. Our community responded quite well, and through various platforms, including DonorBox, we raised $103,000. And that money was transferred to Tigray, perhaps contributing to the delay, because we were very much in a rush to kind of implement everything immediately. That money translated to 5.6 million Ethiopian birr sent to Tigray, and we really wanted immediate implementation. But then we started the campaign in March 2023, but then in April, there was the Commission for Patriots established in Tigray. Then there has to be some kind of negotiation and understanding, because they now are in charge of everything that takes place in and around this spectrum. So that created a little bit of a delay with regard to having access to those who need the support. But then eventually we came to terms recently, and now actual projects have been approved for the next 3 major things that I'm going to explain. And I will also specifically mention the amount of money allocated for this. So the 3 top things that were decided to be attended were the orthopedic and neurosurgery attention to 150 in demand in total. So it's 100 orthopedic surgeries and 50 neurosurgeries. That amounts to 2.6 million birr, and we are actually sorted with all the proposal and approval. We just wait for the hospital to start administering these surgeries and finalize it. So it is not in our hands to kind of immediately guess the list of these who need this attention, but we are really working hard through our volunteers on the ground by pushing a lot to say we still need to implement this project. The second substrata, or the section that was decided for some money to be put, was the treatment for eye treatment for the injuries and surgeries that they need. Also, for visual impairments and eye-related treatments, material support is also one of the things that's needed. So we allocated 2 million for that. That was actually partly decided by the PAS collaboration, by the partners. All of them discussed and said, this is what we have to pay attention to. This one has already been started and it's on process. And the last one was support for female war victims. That actually includes 450 female war victims who received nutritional support and food aid, and additionally 350 female veterans who received material support for household use. And that associated cost is 1 million Ethiopian birr. So this one has been successfully accomplished, and relevant media coverage has been done through local TV stations. And of course, we have also shared the stories on our socials. So this is as far as update with Healing with Hope is. And it is important for us to let all those who contribute a single dollar need to know the information where their money went to. So TDRF does not actually put any part of this donation into any other service. It all goes to implementation by the partners. So we have made it clear, and the accountability will be quite clear at that point, because the MOU specifically says who is going to do the market research, who's going to do the purchasing, who's going to do the implementation, who does the reporting of everything. So we believe that has been one of our successful achievements with regard to creating a pool of partners who come for the same cause to support those in need, and it has been a successful campaign so far.
If you could do a sort of a small digression, Goitom, you mentioned the orthopedic treatments in Tigray. From what I have been reading, my understanding is that there are a lot of young people who have lost limbs and who could have body replacement treatments if there was enough hardware in supply available. And of course, one of the provisions of the Pretoria Agreement, again, it might seem far-fetched, but bear with me, I think that it would make sense. One of the things that they have agreed, by the Ethiopian government and the Tigray government have agreed, is that they would launch a program of DDR, and the arm in the DDR is rehabilitation. And I'm just wondering if you have tried to play a role in that program, because again, the understanding then, I don't know how the implementation is going, but the understanding then was that the Ethiopian government and the Tigray government would work collaboratively with NGOs and other providers to try to rehabilitate people who have been injured in the war? And have there been anything in that respect?
Indeed. With regard to Healing with Hope, it was an earmarked initiative as we started. We said this was going to be helping those who are wounded and injured during the war. And for the priorities on who gets the treatment and which area of the problem is really more on the focus, as you specified. I will also mention a little bit on about the orthopedic services in Tigray. It was up to the partnership to kind of prioritize the intervention areas and decide. And then later on, the coming of the commission also was a determinant factor, where they actually have to also come with their say on where we should focus.
By the commission, you mean the Rehabilitation Commission?
The Commission of Veterans by the Commission of Patriots by the Tigray government and the interim government. That section actually is an addition to us, because we now have to work with them on what we need, and they have to provide also the list of names of those who would be supported through this. But with regard to psychosocial support and PTSD related trainings, in fact, those are part of the most common research project proposals that we receive at TDRF, and I have heard quite interesting initiatives also being done at the universities in Tigray, where trainings are being provided, and the commission, we received an update recently as well, is collaborating with these universities and setting up places in campuses where trainings are going to be implemented, and people are going to be rehabilitated through some curriculum. That's very interesting. But as far as priorities for Healing with Hope, where it was partly about immediate support for the most emergent demands. Sadly, there is one orthopedic center in Meghaleh which is very much under-resourced with human resource as well as with material, and they are doing their level best to kind of collaborate with international organizations which would donate some materials. We have ties with them. We reach out what is actually going on, and the demand ranges from material demand to all the way to professional training support. So it is actually one thing that now Tigray has opened up, and international collaborations. I'm going to mention it in detail when I discuss the next campaign. That is actually one of the priorities where we should tap into our international partnerships as before. Like Meghaleh University had a very strong international collaboration with various universities around the world. And Ida Referral Hospital has been at the top of it with regard to working with international partners. And if it would be about capacitating, because we have in thousands, beyond the percentage that any part of the world has now, Tigray has wounded and people with demand of orthopedic service solutions for their problems. So yeah, it is one of the top things that has to be done, and we keep notice on that. And we will see perhaps if the partnership, the past partnership, would have the possibility to kind of work in that area as well. But so far, the three major areas I mentioned are on top of the list.
Well, good that you mentioned the next campaign, and the next campaign, of course, is actually a campaign that you are already running now, and it's called Rebuilding Dreams.
Yes.
What are the dreams that you're trying to rebuild?
Wonderful. I am by profession a teacher educator, so I come from pedagogical sciences background, and it's very close to my heart to discuss the topic of education. And I think the whole purpose of education is about providing opportunities to youngsters, to students. And unfortunately, Tigray has fallen short on all aspects of this, because we're not only having an outdated education system, but we have an education system that has been targeted at all levels. I had the opportunity to attend the workshop of the bureau head, Dr. Goitom, recently, where he specifically mentioned out how the collapse should be understood, where he said we had physical destruction of schools and school facilities. We had humanitarian disaster with regard to human resource, teachers and students. We had a collapsed curriculum. Now we do have a curriculum that does not function, because, well, then a curriculum is about implementing content through a specific time, and then now it does not really work because students have missed 4 years of schooling, and you need something creative and something that would work, that would not really serve the negative side of it, not really depriving students from the right of education. And at fourth level, he mentioned about an administrative collapse of the education system, where you don't have the directors of the schools, the teachers of the schools who served at different levels of the system. And then what they have done is really remarkable with regard trying to put up things back in order, but of course in a very, very minimal way, because we learned from his presentation 14,000 teachers are not back to school yet. What does it mean? Yeah, well, we all discuss about access and having equity in education, where now we are going to talk about class size, which is how many students does a teacher actually have now in a class in Tigray? Does he have a class? Does he have the resources to do that? It was mentioned we had more than 50,000 blackboards in schools around Tigray, and currently we don't have even 10,000 of them. What does this mean? How are they going to learn? How are we going to make it cope? Because we are faced with 4 years lost on curriculum. We are faced with lack of schools that should have been built during the process. It's not only about keeping the schools that were there, it was also about having additional schools in the process of it. So it contributes a lot towards really a desperate situation when it comes to the education in Tigray. And as we agreed on the board of directors at TDRF, everything that we see as immediate emergency, you can actually tackle it. The only emergency that you don't see, but somewhere it will hit you hard, is education, because what this is going to cause is up to perhaps what we'll see in 5-10 years. And it does not take a genius to understand it's going to be a complete collapse, because we have lost most of the system. We have to cope. We have to make it for lost times. We have to make it to kind of catch up with technology. We have to provide materials. We have to build schools. We have to provide chairs and everything to the schools. So yeah, it's a very difficult, complicated situation, but then you have to do something about it. We cannot really sit and watch. And that's also part of my message. We, as a community, as a society, we're very much invested in politics, and there's a lot of dialogue and discussion in and around politics, what has to happen, and then we catch up with daily topics on certain levels. What we don't really do in a very visible way is really give focus to these things, pay attention to the continuity of the genocide of Tigray underground, with just covering it with some kinds of news and then good developments in Tigray. But then in reality, we are facing a huge divide with the rest of the world, and a huge divide with the rest of Ethiopia for that matter. So we shoulder the largest chunk of the problem in Ethiopia when it comes to the collapse of education. And it's up to the Tigrayan community elsewhere in the world to kind of keep an open eye and really do whatever we can do towards pulling this up. So rebuilding education, rebuilding dreams is about providing young children in Tigray that spark of opportunity that they will use sometime in the future to say, thank God I had that opportunity to get support at this level, that now I am able to kind of have this level of education. And we believe a lot has to be done, but we can start with as little as possible. And then that's why we open the Rebuilding Dreams campaign to support children in Tigray pursue their education. And we organized a couple of packages for that. The whole system will need a lot of infrastructural support, technology support. You have to ensure access and inclusivity. Teacher training is another challenge that I assume the government in Tigray, together with the universities in Tigray, would tackle as soon as possible. And then involvement of communities of Tigray from around the world is actually the center of this. And probably I'll wrap up by mentioning what have we prepared for people to be able to support the Rebuilding Rebuilding Dreams, Restoring Hope for Tigray campaign. We have actually organized, anyone is welcome to contribute $1, any amount of money that they would show commitment towards education in Tigray. But then we made it easy by providing packages for supporting Tigray, which include a $25 package for actually providing gift school supplies for 5 students. And we also have this $50 package for providing support to 10 teachers with some materials, notebooks, chalk and chalkboard and things that they can use for teaching. We also have this $100 package where one can contribute $100 to buy 1 blackboard for a school, which is quite a very relevant material in the school environment as we are seeing devastating pictures of lack of it. And then the $125 contribution actually provides students in Tigray, at least 3 of them, to sit and learn on a desk in a classroom. So these are the packages that we have actually tried to present for people to understand what kind of impact are they making by contributing to TDRF and to this campaign specifically.
Well, one of the really profoundly important points you raised is that we have to find a way to make up for the lost time in terms of education. I think that's very important. I actually have been thinking to interview Kiros Guish on this subject, so I'm sort of making public invitation. I'm putting him on the spot. And you're right also to highlight the fact that the conversation in Tigray has been disproportionately about politics. Now, the joke is that everybody in Mekelle is now an expert in politics, and that but can't be healthy. That we have to find a way to discuss and talk about other issues like education, and that is what you are trying to do at TDRF, and I can only wish you the best of luck. So finally, Goitom, what would a successful campaign in this respect look like in terms of rebuilding dreams?
Definitely. I would mention a couple of examples of how dire the situation is. Just today, there was news about children, close to 5,000 of them, starving in schools in Tigray and in just a specific area, one specific area. We hear about the minorities in Tigray, the Kunama and the Irob, really out of the support zone that we have, are really facing consequences of this war. And schools in Tigray are now becoming a thing of privilege. I saw a couple of posts about, hey, now in Tigray, if you have money, you get an opportunity to learn. The poor does not have an opportunity to learn. Having faced this genocide, my hope is Tigray would find a way to actually not deny education opportunity to the children. That has to be on top of the list for everyone to say every child in Tigray deserves equal opportunity when it comes to education. And in that regard, it's going to demand a whole lot of resources, a lot of money, millions of dollars, a lot of interventions through international partners and, of course, governments as well. But then for TDRF, it's about really contributing that piece of the puzzle. And for us, on this work, on this campaign, we just decided, let's raise $50,000. And for Giving Tuesday in the month of November, we're pushing a lot. We're going to have a Twitter space. We had one recently, and we are going to have another one on the 25th of November. In fact, with the bureau head, Dr. Kiros Guish, as a guest. So perhaps it's quite a good opportunity if you would also invite him to your platform and he spreads more information about what is happening with regard to education in Tigray. And that would help the whole process. So for us, it's a window for some people to engage and contribute through TDRF, but this has to be the agenda of all Tigray affiliated organizations working. We know some focus on specific sectors, but then there has to be due attention to the education sector as well. And this is partly a response from TDRF to kind of see, okay, maybe let's use this opportunity of Giving Tuesday towards that. And definitely on the next steps, we are going to apply for international grants that would even make more sensible intervention from our side. But it is good to understand the scale of the disaster is really, really unimaginable. And then what we are doing is very, very little. And then that's why we also have to do it continuously, and we have to put it on our agenda as frequent as possible.
Well, the saying goes that blessed are the peacemakers, but I would actually say blessed are those who focus on education. So thank you for focusing on education. And I am so excited about the work that you are going to do, and I can only wish you to have a successful campaign. And that was that from me. But if there is something that you want to convey, please feel free, Goitom.
Yeah, 3 things I would like to say. The first one is I would call all Tigray community members in and around the world, friends of Tigray, families of Tigray, to kind of contribute to this campaign, to extend promoting it. Really, it also helps when you bring something into the attention of others. So yeah, donate when you can, share and spread the word when even you are not able to do so. That's one message that I would convey. The second thing I would like to say is I would like to thank you very much for giving us this opportunity on your platform. And the third last thing I would love to say is perhaps sometime soon also we would like to appear again and give a follow-up update on what we have done, how our project has actually progressed on various topics.
Well, I would love to invite you on again. And to our listeners and viewers, please try to help them. As you have heard Goitom explain, they are doing a wonderful job. And I personally have also been following them. They have a very clean organizational structure. They are very serious about the work that they do. And as I said earlier, if you have the means to help, please do to help. They are trying to do meaningful work in Tigray. And thank you for the time, Goitom.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Talai.
It's my pleasure.
Thanks. Have a nice time.